The driving range is not designed to make you better at golf. It's designed to sell you more golf balls. And every single design decision, the mats, the stalls, the pricing structure, even the yardage markers, are all designed for one thing: to get you to hit as many golf balls as fast as possible and come back next week to do the exact same thing. The science that proves this has existed since 1979, but the range industry hasn't changed. I'm going to walk you through the 100-year history of the driving range, show you exactly why every single part of the design works against your improvement, and explain what 50 years of motor learning research says that you should be doing instead. If you're the kind of golfer who has limited time and wants to make sure that every single minute that you're using is going towards things that actually matter, I put together a full stats breakdown for everybody between pro golfers and 20 handicaps. It's completely free, the link is in the description, and I promise it's going to completely change how you think about your own golf game. The first dedicated practice range in America opened in Pinehurst in 1913. It was deemed Maniac Hill. By the 1920s, commercial driving ranges started popping up around New York. Someone could pay a few cents, grab a bucket of balls, and swing away. The concept was really simple: just give people a place to practice golf without having to go and pay for an entire round. By the late 1920s, there were franchises that were popping up around the United States. And the business model has not evolved in the past 100 years. The entire system was effectively locked in before any of us were born. But three things in the 1960s changed everything for those operators: better lighting, artificial turf, and automatic ball dispensers. None of those things were invented to help you get better at golf, by the way. Artificial turf kept maintenance costs down. Big ol' outdoor lights meant that you could practice longer later into the evening. And auto ball dispensers, or auto tee dispensers, were designed so that you could hit as many balls as possible in as short of a time frame as possible. Every innovation expanded revenue generating capacity, not practice quality. By 1995, Chelsea Piers in Manhattan opened a 4-story super range dispensing over 16 million balls a year to 125,000 customers. That model came from Japan, where these multi-tier ranges were designed for expensive areas to maximize space and maximize volume. Then comes along Topgolf, whose first US venue opened in 2005. But by 2024, Topgolf was generating $1.8 billion in revenue, with 2/3 of that coming from food and drinks, not golf. One executive even described it as a restaurant chain cleverly disguised as a driving range. And let's be real, the driving range was probably always just entertainment. It just took Topgolf for us to finally admit it. The public driving range was designed to serve the business, not you. For example, mats. Natural grass requires a ton of maintenance and rotation of tees, and it's an expensive venture. But mats make it cheap. And even better than just making it cheap, it makes you feel like you're hitting it way better than you are. Because you can chunk a shot and skip that club right into the ball and it feels like you hit it normal. The second problem is that every single lie is relatively flat, whereas on the course you rarely have a dead flat perfect lie. Once again, building a flat range is significantly more inexpensive than if we were to go build like a variable terrain type of range. I'm not suggesting that anybody should do that. The third thing is fixed targets. Painted yardage signs or circular greens with a little flag in the middle make you feel like you're aiming at something or being productive by hitting it to that target. But Adam Young, one of the best golf coaches on the internet, put it perfectly. He noted that target areas on a driving range are 5 times the width of an average fairway. The consequences if you miss one of those, you just grab another ball and fire, which is the opposite of what happens on the course, and it's really the opposite of what you're trying to learn, which leans into the fourth big problem. There's no consequences on the driving range. The only way that you add pressure to a range session is by doing it yourself. It is not set up for you to feel any level of pressure. And finally, this one's sneaky, is the range bucket pricing model. A small bucket could be $6 to $8, a medium bucket $8 to $10, and then a large bucket $10 to $14. But the large bucket is always the best value. So you buy 100 balls for an hour-long range session, knowing full well you're not going to be able to give your full attention to each golf ball, which means that you're going to rush through reps and not actually get any better. If anything, you might actually get worse. There's a little bit of sunk cost fallacy in there, isn't there? Obviously, I didn't want to just talk to you about numbers, so I went and did a test myself with a GCQuad, both off of grass and off of mats, with Pro V's and with range balls. One of the tests was with a lob wedge and the other test was with a 7-iron. The way I did the test was I would alternate between the golf balls. I took 5 shots with each. Each ball was hit solid. I did have to do like 2 or 3 retakes throughout the whole test. But this way I didn't get warm with the Titleist and then switch over, get warm with the range ball and then switch over. The Titleist off of grass was an 83-yard average carry with 6,500 average RPMs of spin. The range ball was 79 yards of average carry with 4,200 average RPMs of spin, so over 2,000 less RPMs of spin. Off a mat, the Titleist carried 87 yards with 10,000 RPMs of spin, which makes sense. The mat gives us a little bit of a cleaner strike than grass does. The range ball carried 86 yards, so pretty close, but the spin was 4,100. I mean, there's a clip in here. I hope I post it. You can literally see that I lose the ball in the sky. Like I completely lose it. So while the carry was nearly identical, the ball flight was significantly different. The range ball would roll up the face, not spin at all, almost come off like a driver. The 7-iron was much closer, and I think this is what you'll see as you move up through the bag. As the clubs get longer, the range ball performs relatively similar. The Titleist obviously produced slightly higher ball speeds on average, which is to be expected. But here's the thing with the range ball: as the clubs get longer, the dispersion gets significantly bigger. I actually think I recorded a little on the ground update for you. 2 quick observations while I'm still on the ground here. Number 1 is the Titleist flew a lot straighter. Like, they didn't get nuked by the wind as much. The wind's pretty hard off the left right now. And the Titleist held up really nicely. I was hitting at that white flag out there and it would start a little bit left and kind of stay and then the wind would hit it. But man, those, I mean, even with a little bit of draw spin on the quad, the range balls got eaten up. The second thing I want to show you, now this data doesn't necessarily scream at you, maybe it whispers a little bit, but the biggest problem we ran into was that the range ball off of the mat, which is probably the combo that most golfers use the most often, performed the worst relative to the baseline, which was a Titleist off of grass. The other problem with that is the mat is what feels the best. That's what produces the best feeling strikes. I'll throw it to you, Isaac. Hopefully you can see this, but there's this little area that gets raised. You saw that I was kind of pushing it down throughout the session, but it gets raised. I'm sure that's different on every mat, but that absolutely affects the ball flight. Like, you do not want to be messing with a ball that's like sitting up. Saying the range makes you worse is probably a harsh statement, but it does give you some unrealistic expectations, or just expectations that don't match reality. Now here's the problem. The research that explains why none of this works has existed for 50 years, and no one's really done anything about it. In 1979, 2 researchers named John Shea and Robin Morgan ran an experiment. 72 people practiced a movement task under 2 conditions. One group did only block practice, so doing a repetition the same way over and over and over again to the same target with the same club. The other group did random practice, so tasks mixed in an unpredictable order. During practice, the block group crushed it, like not even close. But 10 days later, when they retested, the groups completely flipped and the random group significantly outperformed the blocked group. Almost half the errors and significantly faster execution. This explains why we can go to the driving range, hit 57 irons in a row, and feel like it was an awesome session. Because in reality, it was. We hit a bunch of really cool, fun shots that ended up being really good one after another, and we got better. But on the course, we don't hit those shots in a row all to the same target. You have to pull it off the first time correctly, whereas this block practice trains you to pull things off correctly the 47th time. This explains why the random group significantly outperformed the block group, because they got really good at solving problems right the first time. I love the analogy from TPI regarding math. If I was to ask you what's 972 times 436, it might take you a little while to solve it the first time. And then if I ask you it again, you're going to solve it quicker, and then again faster, and again faster. But you're not getting better at math. You're just getting good at solving the same problem over and over and over again. This is called contextual interface, and it's been replicated hundreds of times since 1979. Robert Bjork at UCLA spent his career explaining why this happens. He identified 2 different types of memory: retrieval strength, which is how accessible a skill is right now, and storage strength, which is how deeply embedded that skill is for long term. Block practice rapidly improves retrieval strength, but barely develops storage strength. This is called the acquisition-retention paradox. It's a mouthful. You could explain this as the conditions that make practice the best produce the worst long-term results, and the conditions that feel the hardest in practice produce the best long-term results. I'll link all these studies below, but there have been meta-analyses done on this, there have been putting tests specifically that have been done on this, and all of them come to the same conclusion. Random practice is better for long-term retention. Now, from a physiological standpoint, block practice is significantly better for learning a movement pattern. So if you're actively working on a swing change, random practice is going to make it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. All this to say, the driving range makes you feel better in the moment, but doesn't actually do anything to help you play better golf when you go play golf on a golf course, as opposed to just hitting balls on a range. Technology's evolved, our ability to understand the game has evolved, but the average handicap has only gone from 17 to 14.9. 3 strokes in 40 years with titanium drivers, solid golf balls, TrackMan, other cheap launch monitors, the internet. The average golfer has access to significantly better equipment than they did 30 years ago, but they're effectively shooting the same scores. Now, what I don't want you to hear is to stop going to the range, because that's obviously not the answer, especially because on average, 37% of your scoring is approach play, and it's really hard to work on that without a driving range. So we have to get the most out of whatever range we're going to and whatever range balls we have access to. Step one is to know what your range is hiding from you. Not intentionally, but you saw that data. A mat can skew numbers, a range ball itself can skew numbers. I wouldn't necessarily focus on carry distances off a mat or even with range balls. I would focus on left to right movement, and inside 100 yards, maybe we can try to get it dialed in. So here's our first rule, if you will. If we're hitting off a mat or with crummy range balls, outside of 100 yards, I'm not really going to worry about how far it carries. I'm absolutely going to worry about how left and right it gets, but only inside of 100 yards am I going to worry about the carry distance. The second thing we're going to do to get the most out of our facilities is change how we think about practice itself. The research is clear. Your practice needs to be variable, consequential, and course-like. This means we're switching clubs every ball. We're switching targets every ball. We're just not hitting the same shot twice in a row. This is the most important one because it directly derives from the research that we know works across multiple disciplines. And obviously the best form of practicing to go play golf is to just go play golf. So the second best form of practicing to go play golf is to simulate it as closely as possible, which means random targets, random clubs, random shapes. This also is going to remove the autopilot version of you that goes and hammers 100 golf balls in 30 minutes. I know I fall into this trap of trying to hit as many as possible, but we have to take quality over quantity to heart. If you want examples of what this looks like in a real environment within 59 minutes, I've actually got a free 59-minute practice guide that's down below. You can download it. I love that thing. It's awesome. It's a great reference point. And if you just kind of want an example of what I'm talking about looks like in reality, you can download that. Unfortunately, the driving range has been selling the same product for over 100 years. A flat surface, a pile of identical, probably crappy golf balls, and a wide open range where you can hit it anywhere you want. It's designed to feel productive, but that feeling itself is actually the product. The only reason we were able to even figure out the difference between different range facility conditions is because I'm fortunate enough to have access to all that stuff and have access to a GCQuad where we can measure everything. It should not take you 40 years to drop 3 strokes off your scoring average. But unfortunately for the average golfer, that's what it's taken. So I want you to ask yourself one question the next time you go to the driving range. Am I practicing to feel productive or to actually be productive? And if you want a complete guide on how to put together not only just a single session, but an entire season's worth of practice, you can check that out right here.